Assalamualaikum everyone, this is me Rubania E-commerceWali, and today we are honored to a special guest. The name is Caryn. Is a thought leader, author, and healthcare expert who is refining how we see aging through her books, inspirational events, and personal mission coaching that empowers people aged 5 to 10 embrace. And Karen, in the healthcare industry and a passion for storytelling, Karen provides the ages, not a limitation, is a superpower. So, so thank you so much for joining, Karen. It's Short Talk with Robania. And first of all, hi, and how are you?
Great, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Welcome. Okay, so Karen, my first question. How do you personally define the term engine icon?
So I have been working in the industry since my father passed away in 1968. I wanted to be a Broadway star, but when he passed away, I had to drop out of college. And so I went to work for my local dentist. I was very lucky that I had somebody who wanted to train me and said to me that my job was to talk with the patients about their health, not about their children or what was going on with me during the day. I was to make sure that I was there the whole time to talk to them about their health. And that's just continued how I work to this day.
Okay, that's amazing, Green, and you're doing amazing. Or and my next question, Green. Uh, Many people believe dream have expiration date. What do you say to them?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
My question, like many people believe dreams have an expiration date. What do you say to them?
So what I say to them when what I do. Okay, so I change the way you think about gray hair, wrinkles, and people you might think are your grandparents' age. But I talk about how to find the aging icon. Each person has something that they do that makes them special. Right? Even if when they're talking about their children, their families, that's not showing who they really are. They're talking about other people. So I like to get people to speak about who they are and what they believe in and what their interests are and what they've done in their life. And then you will find that people are very interesting, amazing, and that's when you can learn.
Okay, that's amazing, Queen. And my next question, Queen. What inspired you to challenge society view on gray hair and aging?
So I started to meet wonderful, interesting people. And I found actually I was in a clubhouse where I had inherited an apartment from my mother. So it was people much older than me. I was still already an adult, but I wasn't, as old as the people that were coming in. And people were saying, I was love to do what I did, and I'm very good at it, and I want to continue to do it. And their children were telling them, you should just relax. You've worked so hard, you should sit around and do nothing, or you should just golf or play cards. And they were not satisfied with that. So I just felt that if they got the chance to go out and see where this could take them, they could do amazing things. And so my first client, who agreed that he would like to do this, was told that he had people were telling him that he was hard of hearing, he had a stroke, so his family thought he should go to a nursing home. Anything that he said, they discounted because they said, he's out of it, he's too old. But he had some amazing business ideas. And so I started by taking him to get a real diagnosis, taking him to doctors to find out what was the real story about. What was he really going to be able to do, and what would happen to him in the future? And what we found was that he just had a condition which Bruce Willis has. It's something that where the brain can only absorb a certain number of words at a time. But it didn't mean that his brain was gone. It was just one little part that he had a difficulty with. And so I figured out a way to get around it. We made up a system where I had index cards that I gave to the audience, and they would put their question down to him. He could remember everything. So I was able then to say to him, this question is in the area of number one. And then he knew what to answer. And so I arranged for him to have a full speaking career after that. Instead of him going to a nursing home like his family would have put him in, he had a very successful career following that. And it just showed me that this is what people have the ability to do. And so I dedicated myself to doing that. Um, First as a side hobby and side business, and then in 2008, I gave up my business working with doctors and hospitals and dedicated myself only to doing this for individuals.
Nice, Green. And my next question, can you share a moment when you realized it would never limit your purpose?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't. What is the question?
Can you share a moment when you realized it would never limit your purpose?
Yes. So I would say that when the um, after my husband passed away, um, I I like to work with coaches. I am a coach, and I like to work with coaches. Coaches are different than teachers. Teachers just tell you this is what they believe, this is the rules. But coaches work with someone who have they have their own ideas, and the coach will encourage them to explore their own ideas. And so I was working with a coach who asked me to describe my client. And when I described the client, like I just did, tell the story, she said, "Oh, all your clients are icons," because many of my clients are um, actresses, novelists, people in business. And I said, yes, but they're aging, so they're older, so they're aging icons. And that's how Aging Icon was born.
Okay, so your moment was so amazing, Green. And my next question, how has your healthcare background and shape your mission today?
Yes. So when I first was working in the healthcare industry, I went from starting working in doctors' offices, but the only way you can get ahead working in doctors' offices is to leave and go to somebody else and ask for, a raise. Um, and so I went to work for a health insurance company, and that gave me another side of what was going on. And once I was there, I was going, in corporate, getting raises, getting opportunities to move into better positions. I would have got my next job would have been to take over the vice president's role. And so the vice president said to me, "You really should be a consultant." And so I started my own company. And from there, I was helping doctors because I knew a lot of doctors to open up their practices. I did everything from finding locations, hiring the staff, buying all the equipment. As the things changed in healthcare in the United States, this was a very exciting time because doctors were allowed to advertise for the first time. They before that, it was considered unprofessional. But in 1976, they decided that it would be okay for them to advertise. And so instead of doing like regular advertisement on television or in the back of the bus, um, I made arrangements with them to be endorsed by companies and groups. And so this relationship marketing is very similar to what we have now. And that's why it was so easy for me to switch over to social media and to being able to do this kinds of things online. And so when um, I did that for 25 years, I put out a directory with all the doctors that I was um, helping to build businesses. And on the back of the directory, I would put, if you don't see what you want, call the patient advocate. And that was my personal telephone number. So people would call my personal telephone number and I could help them. And I loved to do that. It was, a lot of fun, a lot more fun than going to work at the doctor's office. And so when they, um, when they blew up my office in the World Trade Center in 2001. And then that was when I inherited my mother's apartment. She had passed that year as well. And so when I had the opportunity to switch over from being working with the doctors to working with the patients, I did that. And then I heard about an organization, the Senior Umbrella Network was called, that had all business owners, entrepreneurs, and representatives of some bigger companies, but it was primarily entrepreneurs who were working in the senior space. And so I got to learn everything about what happens to seniors, where they wind up, what can help them, what can't help them, what their problems were. And then in 2008, I decided which was when managed care and the insurance and the changeover of, what we call Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, came into play. And so a lot of what I was doing in marketing and in this relationship advertising space became a moot point because now the insurance companies were telling everybody where they had to go. And so having to pivot to change my business, I decided to change it just to helping the patients.
Wonderful, Kareen, and nice. And my next question, what lesson did you learn from starting a vegetarian on HMO?
Yes. So I had heard about a, uh, it was actually the Medical Society in the state of Connecticut, one of the states, where they had um, decided to form a health maintenance organization, which is their own insurance company. But in Connecticut, we had Harvard and Yale, major health uh, medical schools and medical systems that were very well respected from everyone else, but also from their students, from the people who worked there. And so when they decided to do it, it was a natural following um, that their people would be willing to uh, go along with the um, like hierarchy of how a corporation has to be set up. And so they were able to sell stock in the company where each doctor was equal. They each bought one share of stock, but everything, the management of it was under the umbrella of the doctors from Harvard and Yale. And they were able to gain all of the business away from the major insurance companies. And they became the major insurer in their state. And each doctor had put in $3,500, and now the stocks were worth the $70,000, $100,000 from $3,500 in a very short period of time. And so I met with the people who had done that, who had developed it, and I said, I would like to do that in New York. And so I hired some of those people and I brought some of the doctors who were my clients. We raised $20 million to start the business. It started out that we had a small group of people. We asked for a small investment, tw 25,000, which is not too, small, depends on where you're coming from, but 25,000 to start an insurance company is very little. And then the agreement was that if we got to certain levels, they would put in more money and more money, and until we got to more money. The $20 million came um, from getting selling the shares. And so our shares were $5,000 instead of $3,500, but it was still a way that doctors would have a chance to say they could have a say in the running of the system. And the idea is that if they didn't, this was our tagline, if you don't join us, you will work for them. We were trying to explain to them that that this was coming, managed care, the insurance companies wanted to take over the health system, and that if they wanted to compete, they had to be the owners. They could not compete by negotiating, by discounting, by agreeing um, to just go along with what was being offered to them. They had to compete. And at that time, doctors were considered private businesses. They like to consider themselves business people. So, as a business person, you have to learn everything about your business. Right? You have to know your pricing. You have to know what it takes to run it, what the laws are. And unfortunately, in New York, the medical society decided that they would go along with the insurers, that it was better. They didn't have the confidence in themselves to say, we're going to do this. We are the doctors. We're going to tell you how to run it. And so now we have basically the fragmented system that we have now.
Okay, that's amazing. And Kareem, my next question, how can younger generation learn from older voice?
I'm sorry. I don't, can you restate the question?
How can younger generation learn from older voice?
So, I tell when people ask me all the time, how do I get into your business? Or how do I have this idea. I would like to be in business. The first thing to be in a business is to learn what business is it? What is it really? It can't just be in your own brain and then you say, okay, it's in my own brain, people should buy it. Especially if you need to find if it already exists and you just don't know about it, then you're going to run into competition that you can't compete with. Or you're going to run out of money quickly because you may not know all the costs involved to provide that service. So the first thing to do is to it's called a SWOT analysis. It's what's your strengths, what do you know, what's your weaknesses, what don't you know, what's your um what are your what do you have that is an opportunity. What opportunities do you see where there's a need for your business? And then the threats, which the threats are, what is going to stop you from doing it? So you have to answer those four questions first. You know, are you capable of doing it? What is that your competition out there? What is it really going to cost you to do this? How long is it? What does it take to do this? You have to put this down in writing, not, yes, I know I've thought of it. It's a great idea, because then that never happens. So that's really, the hardest part to get people, whether they're the young generation or whether they're someone my age who wants to start not only a new business, but even just a new venture within their own business. Like I want to have my books. So I had to start again to say what kind of book was not out there and what do people want to hear? Would they be interested in this kind of book? And then, of course, what would they be willing to pay for it? And was I able to make money if I wrote this book and then had to publish it and print it and mail it and all of that? Was it going to be able to make a profit?
Okay, that's great. And my last question, Corinne. What advice would you give to someone who feels too old to start again?
Yes. So it's just, you have to love what you do. You have to want to wake up every day and say, I am so excited to start my day and get to work. And if you do that, then you're going to eventually, when you work hard, you don't have to work really hard. So you don't have to work till late at night. You don't have to, as you are doing, but I mean, in your case, you're, and actually a good friend of mine, one of my mentors is started to work with, people, virtual assistants in Pakistan. So it is something that, has to be taken into consideration, the time differences and things like that. So really understanding and seeing, what you're willing to do, it doesn't have to be just one way. So it's how you like to do it, frame your whole business idea, frame your business plan in how you like to live. That's why my book is Live How You Want to Live, because no one else's business model fits you. Make the business model your own.
Okay, that's amazing advice, and thank you so much, Green, for reminding us that engaging is not about decline; it's about evaluation, your journey, wisdom, and work uh, inspire people of all agree to live boldly, dream freely, and on their story. We really appreciate your time and your mission to help the world see anything in a powerful new light. And thank you so much, everyone, for watching my interview. And I hope you are enjoying. So thank you
Yes,
so much
and
again, Crane, and Bye bye.
Bye bye. Good luck to you.
Uh, Thanks and good luck to you.